In this video, I'll be going over some of the calculations as it relates to mutual funds. So here we're going to be looking at net asset value. The Western Capital Growth Mutual Fund has total assets of 812 million, total liabilities of 12 million, and total number of shares of 40 million. What is the fund's net asset value? So we're going to use this formula here for net asset value, where we'll take the value of the fund's portfolio minus its liabilities and then divide that number by the number of shares outstanding. So the value of our fund portfolio is the same thing as our assets, and that's the 812 million. We'll subtract the 12 million in liabilities and reduce that down to 800 million. Then we can go ahead and divide it by the 40 million shares, and we get $20 per share for the net asset value. Next, we'll be calculating commission. Jan Throng invested $42,000 in the Hmwk Charter Mutual Fund. The fund charges a 5.5% commission when shares are purchased. Calculate the amount of commission Jan must pay. So here's the formula for the commission. We're going to take the amount of our investment and multiply it by the load stated as a percentage. In other words, the percent commission. So taking our $42,000 and multiplying it by 5.5%, and I like to rewrite this as a decimal. So we'll take the 42,000 times 0.055, and then when I plug that into my calculator, I get a commission of $2,310. Next, let's look at management fees. The value of Mike Jackson's shares in the New Frontiers Technology Fund is $51,400. The management fee for this particular fund is 0.80% of the total asset value. Calculate the management fee Mike must pay this year. So here's our formula for the management fee. We'll take the value of our investment and multiply it by the management fee percentage. So taking the 51,400, we're going to multiply it by the 0.8% in the story. And I like to rewrite this as a decimal. So I'm going to rewrite it as 0.008. Then when I plug this into my calculator, I get $411.20 for my management fee. Let's look at 12B-1 fees. As part of his 401k retirement plan at work, Ken Lowry invests 5% of his salary each month in the Capital Investments Lifecycle Fund. At the end of this year, Ken's 401k account has a dollar value of $210,400. If the fund charges a 12B-1 fee of 0.75%, what is the amount of the fee? So here's our formula. We'll take our investment and we'll multiply it by the fee as a percentage. So taking the $210,400 and multiplying it by our 0.75%, I'll rewrite that into decimal format, and I'll multiply our investment by 0.0075, and we get $1,578 for our fees. Let's look at annual fees. The Yamaha Aggressive Growth Fund has a 1.83% expense ratio. If you invest $55,000 in this fund, what is the dollar amount of fees that you would pay this year? So using our formula here to find the annual fee, we'll take our investment and we'll multiply it by the expense ratio as a percentage. So that's where we take our 55,000 and multiply it by the 1.83%, but I'll go ahead and convert that into decimals. And so we'll change that to 0.0183. And when I plug this into my calculator, I'll get $1,006.50. Next, let's look at profit or loss on investments. Jason Matthews purchased 300 shares of the Hodge and Matex Energy Fund. Each share cost $15.15. 15 months later, he decided to sell his shares when the share value reached $18.10. In Part A, what is the amount of his total initial investment? So for our formula, we'll take the price per share and multiply it by how many shares were purchased. So taking the $15.15, multiplying by 300, our total investment is $4,545. In Part B, what was the total amount Jason received when he sold his shares of the fund? So the formula we'll use to get our sale proceeds is the price per share times the number of shares sold. You'll want to identify the correct price per share for this problem, which is $18.10 times the 300 shares. And we'll get a sale proceed of $5,430. So in Part C, we're asked how much profit did he make on this investment. So what we'll do is take our sale proceeds in Part B and subtract our total investment from Part A. That means we'll take the $5,430 minus the $4,545 for a profit of $885. Now, if when we subtract our sale proceeds and our total investment and we end up with a negative, that means there would have been a loss on the investment. So be aware, positive means profit, negative means loss. Next, let's calculate total returns. Assume that 1 year ago you bought 120 shares of a mutual fund for $33 a share. You received a 60-cent per share capital gain distribution during the past 12 months, and the market value of the fund is now $38 a share. So in part A, we're going to calculate the total return for our $3,960 investment. And you might ask, where did I get that number? That's the 120 shares times the $33 a share. So the formula we'll use to get our total return is our income dividends, if we have any, plus the capital gain distributions for all of our shares, plus the change in share price when sold. So the setup, you'll notice in the story that there's no mention of any income dividends, so that's 0. For the capital gain distributions, it states right here, you got 60 cents per share. So we'll take the 120 shares that were purchased, multiply it by the 60 cents. That'll give us our capital gain distributions. And then for the change in share price when sold, we'll take the 120 shares again and multiply it by the change. So the change here is the $38 and the $33 when you first purchased it. So there's a difference of $5. So plugging all of this into our calculator and carefully paying attention to the order of operations, we'll get $672 for our total return. In part B, we're going to calculate the percentage of total return for our investment. So the formula for our percent of total return is taking the dollar amount of our total return that we found in part A and dividing it by our original cost of investment. So we'll take the $672 from part A and divide it by our investment of $3,960. And if you forget where that came from, that was the 120 shares at $33 a piece. When I divide these two numbers, my percent of total return is 0.17, or rewritten as a percentage, 17%. So if you have any questions, just let me know.